Entitled mother insults me for wearing a swimsuit and makes a scene. Before I start this all started last year, where I was just a teenager and still am. I also want to apologize for my bad English, and it's pretty long, so anyway, let's start. It was a hot summer day. I live in a tourist town where many people come to visit. It's a nice town to stay some weekends. Several times friendly people come and other times pure demons dressed as humans. This was my case. Me and my grandpa, who doesn't know how to speak the official language of the country we're in, were having a fun time. Everything was normal, the water was nice, and the day was sunny. I was wearing a black bikini. Not inappropriate, just a normal swimsuit. I was enjoying myself and I finally felt good in my own skin. Well, apparently my wardrobe choice was eye-catching for a visiting American family. A man of approximately 55 years old was looking at me, and he wasn't the only one. Another dude was looking as well, both in a dirty way. I felt disgusted, so I decided to call my grandfather to go to another side of the beach. But before I could speak, a lady with hair dyed a passion red came angrily at me with a kid. Entitled lady: "Do you speak English? I don't know if any of your kind speak it." Me: "Yes. Do you need help?" Entitled lady: "You need help. This is a public space." Me, trying the best to talk without a strong accent: "I know. What happened?" Entitled lady: "Your swimsuit, if I can call it that, is just provocative. All of you Spanish people are, just look at you. You look so promiscuous." At that point, I was in shock. Did this lady forget that some people on here are topless? I wasn't Spanish though either. I understand and speak the language, but this was scary. She just shamed me and my autistic ass was about to cry. Me: "Ma'am, what? I'm not wearing anything strange or sexualized." Entitled lady: "Of course you are. You are distracting my dear husband and son, you harlot. Put something on. You're showing too much of your chest. Your butt is exposed," and insert more stuff wrong about my body. Me: "I'm only 14. What's wrong with your son? And isn't your husband at least 50? That's disgusting." Entitled lady: "You aren't that young. You're just a 16 to 19-year-old girl who likes destroying families. God needs to punish you." This lady stopped for a second to talk with her kid. She was telling him how distracting I was and that when he grows up, never to bring home any girl like me. Absolutely disgusting behavior. At this point, the kid that was with her was crying and screaming that I was a homewrecker. How can a 7-year-old call me that? Did he really know what was going on? People were looking at the scene. My grandpa was asking me what was going on and who were these people. I didn't know what to say. I was just standing there about to scream and feeling horrible. The pedo husband and pervert son seemed embarrassed and now exposed by the crazy lady. They came to pick her up and take her to the side where they had put their things. I heard their murmurs saying that I strayed from God's path and that I was just a tease. After this, I put a shirt on and stayed on the sand just feeling gross. I absolutely hated that family of 4. Still to this day, I remember what happened. It was just a year ago and I still feel bad about it. This was one of my experiences with a Karen and I wish it never happened. Not a whole lot to say about this one. A little entitled, mostly just rude. But I do want to say that I just love the God needs to punish you. Of course he does. We now have a Discord. Check out the server in the link in the description. Story 2. Entitled mom wants me to change her child's grade. So I'm a first-year high school teacher for 10th grade English. I have this one student who throughout the school year didn't try on his work. Examples being that he'd only finish half the worksheets or not participate in what we were doing in class. I gave him plenty of chances to make up work and even do some extra credit as I didn't want to see any of my students fail. But I know I can't prevent every one of them from failing and they have to put some effort in themselves. Well, even after all that, he still slacked off and basically didn't care about it. He cared about passing, he just didn't want to do any of the work, from what I can assume from the interaction. Anyway, I got an email from his mother the other day asking for a parent-teacher conference, something that I've done a lot lately since it's only a week until the end of the school year. I agree and set a date. Well, in the conference, the mother starts to tell me about her son is passing but barely passing his other classes and she really wants him to pass all of them. I told her that I wanted all of my students to pass as well because I care about their futures, but he hasn't put forward the effort needed to pass the class. She then tells me that he did the work and put the effort in on what he did do in the class and that I should just drop all the other grades that made him fail for him so he can just pass. I told her, no, it wasn't going to work like that. I could maybe give him some extra credit grades that he could do, but even then, it might not pass him. She then proceeds to tell me that she'll have him do them if I drop the rest of his failing grades. This went on for some time with not much progress being made until I finally told her that the best I could do was replace one of his lowest grades with what he makes on an extra credit assignment. But I wouldn't do anything else. To which she huffed, "We'll see about that." After that, she ended up leaving, and the next day I gave him the extra credit. But as the deadline to turn them in looms closer and closer, I doubt that he'll do them and he'll fail either way. It's just brutal to hear about a kid who really doesn't want to try, and it's even worse to hear about a mom who's obviously enabling that behavior. Yikes. I can't imagine being so entitled to go in and be like, my child deserves to have all of their failing grades dropped, and just, take the good ones. Yeah, if it worked like that, maybe I wouldn't have lost my scholarship in university. A bit of a self-report there, but still, I wouldn't have minded if it works like that. That's all I'm saying. Story 3. Parents more concerned about losing a free dog sitter rather than supporting their daughter. Heard this story yesterday, and I'm still angry. For some context, our parents have come into some money relatively recently, so have taken the opportunity to explore the world. They have been away 2 to 3 times this year already, with a couple more booked later. Since my sister, 20F, and I, 23F, don't live at home, I'm renting with my partner, sister at university, I understand that they are taking the chance to go away and enjoy themselves. The issue comes up with the fact that they book these trips spontaneously, and so expect me or my sister to drop any plans we have at the last minute to look after their 2-year-old puppy. Issue? My sister has recently finished her 2nd year of university and is working as much as she can to save up for her next term. She lives an hour away by train, and with recent strikes, it can be difficult to come home. Last week, she applied for a second job to earn as much money as possible over the summer. Anybody in the UK knows how hard it is at this minute. Last week, she applied for a second job to earn as much money as possible over the summer. Anybody in the UK knows how hard it is right now. She told me yesterday that she was successful and is due to start at the end of the month. I was really happy for her and started making plans to go up and see her. Got to abuse those discounts. Our parents weren't as enthusiastic. Instead of congratulating her, the first words out of their mouths was, "Who is going to look after the dog when we're away?" I got so angry. They've become so selfish since they've come into this money. They don't even cover the rail funds for my sister to come home. They think they can exploit her to dog sit for free. Whilst this may not be the most entitled situation compared to what I've seen on the sub, I needed to rant. This, in my mind, is just a smaller version of the ones where it's the parents expect the children to raise a child that they have later in their life. Just take care of the things you need to take care of, parents. Come on. I get you want to see the world and everything. Just travel a little less. A little less. Story 4. Parents try to call the police when I ask them to leave. I, 16F, have never dealt with entitled parents before, so this is all new to me. For some background, my dad bought a small house, 2-bed, 1-bath, near a beach for my grand aunt, and the house has always been in our family. It's on a small patch of land with some yard to the sides of it, with an old metal shed with some glass windows towards the back. Everyone in our family uses it, and we rent it out when no one is there. We went down this weekend because it was going to be fun and we needed to get ready for renters. It's close to a community park/pool, so it's always a little loud and sometimes busy. Behind us is another small house with barely any yard at all. My parents went out to get some hardware when I stayed home to work on some schoolwork. They can take a long while because traffic is absolutely terrible most of the time. Kids tend to play on our lawn but don't get really loud, so we don't mind. I heard a loud bang on something metal, but I didn't see anything from the window, so I went back to work. Again, I heard the same sound around 5 to 7 minutes later. I went outside this time because I didn't know what it was. Apparently, there were 2 boys, 10 to 12 years old, playing kickball in our yard. They seemed surprised when I stepped outside the house. I asked them what they were playing, and they said kickball. I asked if they could try avoid hitting the shed in the house. They agreed and went back to the house behind ours when I left. 15 minutes go by and I hear it again, but I assumed it was a mistake because kids can't really control their kick sometimes. I hear it again 4 more times in the next 10 minutes. I went back outside and found the kids on my family's land again, but with the parents. The boys didn't change and were still kicking at the house/shed. When they saw me, they stopped playing. I asked the parents and the kids this time to help the kids avoid hitting the house. They seemed to be annoyed by me and told me they are watching them and that I should mind my own business in a pretty snarky way. I was pretty surprised because an adult never talked to me like that before. I said I wouldn't mind if they would just stop hitting the house and shed. They said I was being an ungrateful kid on vacation. I responded saying that the yard they were on is owned by my family and so is the house they're hitting, so I don't want it to get damaged. They couldn't care less and pretty much said, well, they're kids and they don't know better. I suggested they could play in the park 5 to 10 minutes away, so they wouldn't hit anything and would have more room to play. They seemed offended and said they weren't paying for that stuff and I was putting their kids in danger. I said it was open to the public free of charge and it was right next to a police station. They seemed to just ignore that and said if I don't get away from them and their children, they would call the police for harassment and putting their kids at risk. I'm annoyed at this point and I reminded them that they're on my dad's property and that they could have damaged it. They seemed angry that I said that and went quiet for a bit. The kids seemed somewhat embarrassed and the oldest seemed mortified and asked if they could just go to the park. The The mom said, "You're right, kid's name. We shouldn't waste any more time on this ungrateful brat." They left promptly with the husband and the younger kid in tow. I was shocked and stood there for a bit and soon went back inside. Definitely a new experience and one I don't want again, but will probably encounter again in life. Don't you just hate when you can tell that the parents are going to make these kids into the same kinds of jerks that they are? Because, these kids seem to be, just kind of naive and oh, okay, we want to do what's right, and the parents are teaching them that right is not what most people consider right, you know what I mean? Also, I just love when parents are oh, kids will just be kids, they don't know what they're doing. Dude, it's your job to teach them what they're doing. Right? Am I crazy? I'm not crazy. They're crazy. Story 5. Please help. Mom spies on me wherever I go. I, 20F, am so frickin' frustrated. All the way through middle school and college, she has always been helicoptering. She always calls my teachers and asks them how my grades are, if I hang out with boys, if I have a boyfriend, if I smoke, how are my friends. She even tells them how I am at home, how I never give her my Facebook password, how I put a lock on my phone, how I never share anything about my life with her. Honestly, the reason is so freaking obvious why I am the way I am. I remember this one day, my father beat the living crap out of me because I skipped tuition classes and stayed home. And the first thing that came out of her mouth was, "She never gives me her password. What kind of daughter doesn't share her password with her mother?" She kept pestering me to give my password while I laid down on the floor crying in pain. I'm sick of her calling and visiting my teachers behind my back. The teachers would then embarrass me in front of the entire class. Every single teacher I had knew my mother, because she'd visit every single one of them. One of them was so fed up, they gave me their cell phone and asked me to block her number. He told me, "Your mother calls me first thing in the morning right when I open my eyes, and calls me late at night when I close my eyes to sleep." He also said, "Your mother goes through your room and your stuff every day you leave for college." And it turns out he was right. She even goes through my dustbin. The teacher refused to give me classes in the next semester, and I was so anxious before my finals. Yesterday, she even called the place where I take my guitar classes, looking up the number online. When I found out, she blatantly lied and told me that she didn't. When I exploded, she said that she only did it because she wanted to buy me a guitar before my audition. She just wanted to know how much time was left for the audition. I received an email today saying I had passed the first round of audition. I don't even feel joy anymore because I know it's not because of my musical abilities, but because of her. I cussed her out and then she went and started playing the victim card. I want out of this. This just frickin' sucks, dude. If I were talking to OP right now, I'd be like, what can I do to help you get out of this situation? Not only did the OP just casually drop, "Oh yeah, my father beats me mercilessly," but the mother is, as obvious, just crazy, absolutely entitled parents. But more than entitled, just abusive. If she really wants to take care of her daughter by watching over her so much, she would divorce the person beating her, but obviously that's not the case. Story 6. Hers is the one that says bad bitch on it. My friend and I, 34M, had been planning on a pool day, and today wound up happening to be that day. It's worth noting that both my friend, 30s F, and her daughter, 5F, have type 1 diabetes. They manage their condition with a device called a PDA, Personal Diabetic Assistant, and some patches that get applied to their skin that are evidently waterproof. This device happens to look exactly like a phone, but doesn't do much other than monitor blood sugar levels and alert the user if they need something more than insulin in the patch. This takes the form of either something that looks like candy or a juice box. Other thing to note is my friend works in the adult entertainment industry and is both very, very comfortable in her own skin and has been fresh out of F's to gives since she was about 18 years old. Not to say she acts or dresses immodestly, especially around her daughter, just that she appreciates being appreciated and looks amazing in a bathing suit. As for the fresh out of F's, well, you'll see. My gym, for obvious reasons, has a rule about no recording devices of any kind being used in the locker rooms or pool areas. That's not to say there's a no cell phone rule, because there isn't. It would be both unenforceable and impractical. You can have your phone, but you'll be escorted off the premises if you're caught taking pictures of people or recording a video. There's also a rule about no outside food being brought in, as they've got a restaurant/cafe inside and frown upon people bringing their own lunches in. Happily enough, there's an exception for diabetics and other such medical conditions, because that's kind of federal law that such things must be allowed. So my friend and I arrive, and we post up on a pair of desk chairs. One of us keeps an eye on the tot, and today it's mostly me since she enjoys the sensation of being cooked by the sun slowly, and I have trouble sitting still. After a little while, my friend flags us down as the little one needs a juice box. Me, being a mature and responsible adult, naturally stole said juice box and tried to do a runner. The little girl squeals and says something like, "Hey, that's my juice box, you give it back." And me, doing my best greased up deaf guy voice from Family Guy, replies, "You're never gonna catch me." and there's a little bit of a spectacle as she chases me down. Finally, I let her catch me and return the juice box, and we both walk over to where my friend has been keeping an eye on us. She moves her enormous sunglasses down to the tip of her nose and gives me an eye roll and asks, "Did I bring one child in here, or two?" I plead the fifth, and then have a sit and chat while the little one slurps down her juice box. My friend then whips out her daughter's PDA, which has a hot pink case on it and a label that says Little B. That is to differentiate it from my friend's, which also has a hot pink case on it that says Bad Bitch. It used to say Little Bitch, but that was frowned upon when she had to give it to the teacher for kindergarten, so Little B it was. We chill until the device has been appeased, and then I take the little one off for some more trips down the water slide while my friend flips over and undoes the back of her bathing suit so she's cooked evenly. Before we can make it very far, a middle-aged woman complete with the Karen haircut comes over and starts to squawk at us. "You need to cover up, there are children here!" My friend rolls over and keeps her bathing suit in place with an arm and points at me with her free hand. "I know, there's two right there. Don't let the size fool you, the big one's the less mature of the pair. What's your problem exactly?" Karen puffs up a bit. "My son won't stop staring at you, you're tempting him!" Without missing a beat, my friend replies, "Oh, really? Why don't you try telling someone who, I don't know, gives an F? You're in my light, this is a pool, I'm wearing a bathing suit. Have a fantastic day," and then rolls back over onto her front. The Karen makes a gobbling sound, apparently at a loss for words, and stomps off with her fists clenched, presumably in search of a manager. Me and the little one go off for the water slides, which I was secretly looking forward to. A man in his 30s going down a water slide himself? Rather odd. Going down a slide with a 4-year-old in front? Totally normal. After about an hour of impersonating a fish, I look up for my friend and see her standing, looking around with a very concerned expression on her face. I pop the little one onto my shoulders and we go check in. Apparently at some point my friend had managed to doze off despite the noise, and the big bag of stuff she brought in was missing. And she kind of needs it right now. Her sugars feel off and she's dizzy. I leave the little one with her mom and think for a moment, and then I have a thought, and figure going over to the check-in desk might be step one. An attendant looks up at me with a smile and asks how can he help. I explain the situation, that there's a big bag missing. Pretty standard beach fair bag, so he asks if I can identify anything inside. There should be 2 hot pink things that look like phones inside. One says bad bitch on it. The attendant covers his guffaw just barely and then brings up my friend's bag. He explains that a woman brought the bag over, claiming the person whose bag it was kept on using the devices inside to take pictures of her and her offspring. The guy knows that we probably didn't do anything wrong, but he had no idea to whom the bag belonged and also didn't want to get into that with the woman. I couldn't blame him. I take the bag back over to my friend and she starts digging through it. And then the digging becomes rifling as things are rapidly ejected haphazardly from the bag. And then she looks up at me and says, "That bitch," in a rather alarmingly cold tone. I said something clever that sounded a lot like, "Huh? All of the juice boxes and candy are gone and my sugars are hitting the floor. I'm going to kill her." Today I learned that irritability is an understatement as far as low blood sugar symptoms go. My friend stands up, scans the area, and sees something. She stalks over and happens upon a rather smug and familiar-looking woman laid upon a lounge chair, with a rather timid-looking boy of about 12 in the next chair over. The Karen opens her mouth to say something and manages to let out another squawking sound as my friend, without any preamble or warning, grabs the woman's bag and dumps the whole thing on the ground. The woman inelegantly falls off her chair, frantically scrambling to collect all of her stuff, while my friend bends over and picks up some candy wrappers and a single empty juice box. And then my friend says something in a tone that sends shivers down my spine when I think about it. "You stole my baby's medicine and then ate it?" There's always something alarming about something said in a tone that sounds calm but is not calm at all. Sensing imminent violence, I placed myself between myself and my friend and started shouting for help. A couple lifeguards ran over, one speaking into a walkie-talkie urgently. While all this is going on, the Karen is frantically cramming her things back into the bag, oblivious to her surroundings. Finally, she finishes, realizes what's going on, and immediately stands up and starts shooting her mouth off about indecency and rule breaking. And if my friend didn't bring enough to share, she shouldn't have brought any at all. At this point, my friend shakes me off and thrusts the candy wrapper in her face. "Do you understand what this is for? My child is diabetic. I am diabetic. Do you go around and steal crap from every girl here who's skinnier and prettier than you? Or just the ones who don't put up with your BS?" At this point, several other staff members have arrived and separated the parties. My friend is taken promptly over to the cafe for the first and, to my knowledge, only instance of free food being given out by the place. Once her sugars had leveled out, she had to tell her side of the story to those who needed to know. I don't know what happened to the Karen. I did ask, but the staff member I asked said they couldn't say. We had to leave after that as it's fairly important for diabetics to have sugar on hand, and neither of us really felt like paying $3.50 for a glass of orange juice. Plus, the mood was kind of ruined. People these days, ugh. Really quick, because that was such a long one, that woman is possibly the worst Karen I have ever heard of. Like, I can't even believe it. She had some spat with someone for indecently dressing for wearing a bathing suit at the pool, which is just insane, and then decides, oh, I'm going to take matters in my own hands, and steals her stuff and gives her bag to the front desk. That's so bad. So bad.